Hi, everybody. It's Nick. I hope that you all are hanging in there. I'm so excited today to have with me Dr. Alexa Altman, who is a clinical psychologist, and she specializes in trauma and does all of this amazing work with mindfulness. And she is a dear friend and one of the reasons I'm able to get up so early and run. And so I'm so happy. I'm so happy we get to have like an official conversation.
Right, outside of our running gear.
Exactly, exactly. So obviously with the pandemic and quarantine and homeschooling and all of the recent kind of chaos we've all been experiencing, if you will, I thought it would be fun for us to just have a conversation, and you have so much knowledge and experience and wisdom to share. So I was just hoping to kind of bring you on for my clients and friends and just talk a little bit about how you're doing, how kind of your clients are doing, what you're seeing, and just, offer what you can right now.
Yeah. Well, first, I think too, just as somebody who's worked in psychology for about 16, 17 years, we've never seen anything quite like this. So I think at the beginning, most of us were like, what is going on? Both all of my colleagues and just everybody, of how do we adjust to this new way of life? And how do we really prepare our children for what's ahead, not really knowing how to prepare ourselves for what's ahead.
Exactly.
So I think first and foremost, what I'm really seeing is there's this shift from just incredible amount of panic and what is this new kind of lifestyle right now, and people are starting to settle in a little bit, to what is kind of a small life, to really trying to understand how do we get our needs met, both socially and spiritually and emotionally and psychologically in this time. So we're starting to see a lot of depression and anxiety and uncertainty as it relates to all of that. And so, I think people are really struggling to maintain their mental health right now.
Yeah. Well, I know for myself, and I feel like so many people I talk with, also the frenetic nature of it, where it's like we feel like it's like, okay, homeschooling, working from home, multiple devices, all of this. And one moment it feels like we've got it. We figured something out. And then 5 minutes can go by and it feels completely overwhelming. Like everyone's crying at the same time.
Right.
And so I think the swings, I know for myself and so many people I'm talking to, have been so quick. Whereas outside of this, I feel like it's more of a slow build to a tantrum or a meltdown, if you will.
Right. Because like all of our routines and all the things that we do in our outlets, like our runs together, or the different soul cycle that you go to, or your Starbucks run, or all the things that create ritual in your day are gone. And so just creating ritual with your family again, or with yourself, of what are the things I need to get done in my day that help me kind of function at an optimal level, are really diminished. So I think when you say that, right, all the things we might run to if we are having a tough moment aren't available.
Yeah.
So some of the things I've been talking a lot about with my clients is all of your outlets for wellness or well-being, whatever they might be. It's really a time to create some more internal resources instead of going to the outside for those things. How do we create those on the inside, like an inner oasis? And what does that look like to start to do? And how do I help my family do that too? They're not running to their friends the way they would, or there are different outlets at school. And how do we build those internal spots?
Which is so smart, because that sounds so obvious. And I feel like that sounds like the answer always. Like, instead of looking outside us, the happiness is inside us.
I know. It's like so simple yet difficult to do.
Yeah. Well, because that's hard on a good day when everything's going right. Looks good in that.
So some of the things I think about too, as a person, we all know where we tend to gravitate. Some people gravitate towards being more in like the high zone and run anxious and hot and fast. And some people, when they're distressed, run like more in the low zone and get inactive and more kind of foggy mentally and depressed. So I think the intervention as far as going in is very different depending on how you tend to run. And some people are a little bit of both, right? So I think sometimes when you're prone to activity and wanting to mobilize a lot, I think it can be really difficult when you can't really mobilize in the same
Mm.
way. You have all this energy with nowhere to go,
Yeah.
right? So some of the things I think about if you run high are, finding ways to, of course, mobilize in your own home, but also learning how to harness that energy in a different way. Because if you're used to running high, oftentimes there's this need to kind of mobilize and take charge
Mhm.
in that fashion. So I'm a big proponent of mindfulness, really, of really utilizing those mindful moments to notice when I'm running high and what that energy is. Oftentimes with underneath all of that energy are other feelings like
Sure.
grief,
Yeah.
sadness, fear. Maybe there's some fear under there that
Mm.
we tend to kind of mask with intense feeling,
Mm.
intense movement.
Mm.
So maybe a time to look under the hood a little bit.
I love that.
Right. And then people who run in the low zone, oftentimes what I'm asking people to run who run really low is movement. It's actually, you need to move your body versus the people who are mobilized all the time need to sit still a little bit.
Mm. Yeah.
So how do we start to mobilize? And that might look like a walk every day. It might look like looking at the trees and like really getting your eyes out instead of staying really in and insular.
Mm.
So it's like the way that you tend to go in your, when you're in distress, kind of like we have to move the opposite way in
Mm.
order to find regulation,
Interesting.
right? So
Yeah.
if you run high, you need to slow down. And if you run slow, you need to speed up,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I run high because I'm like type A doer.
right?
Zzz.
Right.
And the last thing I would think is to like slow
Slow
down
down.
because there's so much more that needs to get done right now. I have 40
Right.
hours of teaching I have to squeeze into my schedule, which is already full. But yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's also everything that this pandemic is really bringing us, like just stop,
Mm.
and actually see what happens. And I do this experiment sometimes in the middle of that high speed place is let's just notice if you were to stop and you were to give yourself that moment and you were to see what else can you notice in the midst of all of that activity, what else is
Mm.
there? Because there's something often running that engine
Mm.
that all that activity isn't quite getting at.
I love that.
Yeah. So it does take some practice and it does take some reminders. And that's oftentimes what, meetings with friends and you have that moment. This is the other big thing I wanted to say that I'm really noticing is, without all that social engagement, you have no one digesting your experience with you.
Mm.
You might go to your spouse, you might, or partner, or you might have those moments where you get that with your person, if you do have a person at home to do that with. But oftentimes that would happen, at Starbucks, you might see a friend, or you might run into someone somewhere,
Mm.
or you'd have a face to face. That kind of processing that happens spontaneously with other humans isn't happening right now. So we're not really getting that kind of feedback to help us digest our experience in the ways that we normally would. It's not
Mm.
probably going to happen over text or
Right.
over Zoom. So that's the other thing I'm really encouraging people to do is actually pick up the phone and have a conversation, have a distant walk or distant hangout, because our nervous systems need it in order to digest what's happening for sure, but also in order for us to feel like we belong and connected. And one of the reasons why they say more and more people are feeling that depression and the social isolation is our nervous system, if it doesn't get social engagement, it's one of the biggest, most valuable ways we regulate our nervous system from states of distress is through human connection. So
Mm.
I'm trying to eke out all those ways in which we feel like we belong and that we're a part of something greater than ourselves with other humans. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think that's the interesting thing, especially those of us that are at home with kids. Like we don't want to be alone and we want to connect, yet we seem to always have people around and can't get away.
Right,
So
right,
it's like this combination of like, I want to connect, but I want to be alone and I want to be away. And yeah.
right. Because I need a break.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment when I might actually have a minute to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, there's not enough energy to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just want to be by myself. Yeah, right, right. I would say being with kids at homeschooling isn't it's connection, but it's not the kind of connection that's regulating to us. It's
Mm,
actually more to dump out of all our energy to help regulate them
yeah.
all day long.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so what are your thoughts on that for those of us that are quite literally, whether it's our children or our spouse, or even a lot of people that have roommates, um, uh, just to regulate ourselves and then not be pouncing off of their deregulation, if you will, and just giving everybody the appropriate amount of space and time, but then also like there have to be some rules or set of standards for us like going through this in a household. And I don't know, I've just found it challenging sorting through all of that.
Right, right. I'm such a big proponent with all humans. We got to be really kind and compassionate.
Yeah.
In my house, it's like we all get at least one tantrum a day, if not more. So I think just like the expectations are different right now of just loosening the reins a little bit generally.
Yeah.
But also, I'm a huge proponent of timeout. That mom gets a timeout, kids get a timeout, not as a punishment. Lots more time in different corners of whatever space that you're occupying, of just needing some time to be alone.
Mm,
Because all the togetherness is great.
mm,
No one's alone.
yeah.
And we need that space, especially as parents, to have our own thoughts, but also for our kids to be in their own worlds too.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a big proponent of let's all take a quiet moment
Mm,
and take time just to do our own thing throughout the day. Um, be that self compassion, like I had said, and see. I feel like as much as we can. Um, I'm just like I think be be outside and be unstructured. And on the weekends, this is, I think, what's saving my family right now. My demand of my children and myself is very, very low
mm,
to just like be accountable to what it is that as parents, what we need to refuel over the weekend. I think more and more that's also what I'm seeing is a lot more liberty for self-care, which as mothers and as fathers, I think sometimes we fall short on
yeah.
currently in our culture.
Yeah.
So just really taking that extra time on the weekend to fill up, to get ready for the big week ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love this idea of it just being as simple as slowing down if you're high, getting outside, movement if you're low, in order to just get in the right place to even make these decisions for the people around us. Because
Right.
I know for myself, like when I'm coming at somebody from a place where I'm already feeling completely exhausted and overwhelmed, it's just, there's actually no space for them, if you will.
Right. Right, right, right. If your nervous system isn't regulated, your capacity to regulate anybody else's or
Right.
a little one is quite limited.
Yeah.
Right. Oxygen mask on yourself first.
Right. Yeah.
But I think too, even when you say that, I think one of the things that it does, because things have so slowed down in our lives, it really gives us an opportunity as parents or as adults for us to look at those areas and places, because everything is so magnified right now
Mm,
as far as how you're functioning.
mm,
Everything is very loud, even though the noise outside is dimmed and diminished, except I guess for the news. For you to take a look at, like, where are those areas where maybe even historically I haven't cared for myself, where
mm.
I let this go. There's no excuses now,
Yeah.
because many of the people that you're taking care of in your home are depending on you. There are no other outlets.
Mm,
Your care is critical to every person. Like, we know this, but it's even more critical now because there is no teacher, there is no nanny, there is no play date.
right.
Yeah, if you weren't doing it before, you're not gonna last long
Yeah.
not doing it now.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because, like, for me, being like a type A perfectionistic type of person too, I think that I'm like, why don't I not have this teaching down yet? And like, why am I not? And it's like, oh, right. No. And that's my default setting. But yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, just like given space.
Right. Well, and you and I have talked about this before. It's like whether your default setting is perfectionism or default setting in a way is just, incredible, incredible amounts of self-criticism and whatever that might be. I was like, yeah, this also can be an opportunity to kind of look at a bit of a reset,
Mm,
because life is so slowed down and everything is hyper. It can't be more in focus. To take
totally.
a look at how that, how that can look different during this time, or how you can start to make small changes in those ways.
Which I love. Like, I love kind of like the invitation or permission, if you will, to do that, because I just find it so funny. Like, so many emails I'm getting and so much that's coming at me on social media. Like I was mentioning too, is like 73 tips to clean out your pantry this weekend, or like 65 things that you can do with kids in your living room. And like, the lists are so big. And like, I'm a list kind of gal, but I'm literally like, I get the email and I'm just like, I just want to lay down. I'm like, no, that's too many.
Maybe too, what it is like this deep listening of what really wants to happen versus all the shoulds. Like, what really needs, and not even needs, like wants to happen today that would best take care of myself and my family, versus all those, I feel like all those lists and all those emails, versus like, and also you and I talk about this too, all the texts that come in
Yeah.
often can be a ton of shoulds.
Mm,
And like, we don't have time for shoulds right now.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
is it's really like, let's keep our family in like this like life preserving boat and keep us afloat,
Mm.
and that we can best float through this experience. I mean, maybe occasional capsizing, but just trying to really stay afloat in it. And I just feel like there isn't really the room for that
Mm.
extra stuff right now. We're getting back down to the basics.
Yeah. I love like the permission though to just keep it simple. Like, be good to yourself.
Yeah, I have a dear friend. She is an Ayurvedic practitioner with food and nutrition. She always says, when life gets complicated, you simplify your diet. When life gets complicated, you simplify what you can digest, because we can't digest that much right now. Our
Mm.
stomachs are really full.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. You're
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me to have this conversation with you.
Oh my God. It's so helpful. And if people want to reach out to you or find you, how do they get to you?
Yeah, so you can find me on dralexaaltman.com, and that's my website. And if you're looking for some greater support, I have myself and a long list of colleagues in the LA area, and I can be found at drlexaltman@gmail.com. You can also email me there.
Amazing. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yes.
This was
So
so
good to talk
great.
to you.
You
We'll
too.
be running again soon.
Can't wait.
Yeah.